Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. That's probably a good thing to do on the trade deadline after a number of trades. I'm here with Glen Willis and Tyler Jones, and there was also a Hawks game tonight. Kind of an ugly one, Tyler?
Yeah, trade deadline day, especially if the team you're watching made a lot of moves, it's just not going to look pretty. Um, I, you know, it just felt like they were disjointed. Lineups were all like they were playing a lot of lineups that hadn't played at all together, and like it just felt like the communication was poor the entire game on defense and then on offense. Though Landell had a good game, like he wasn't in the right spots until he realized he what they Hawks want their bigs to do is shoot threes from outside 3 point line. They don't want them, fighting for offensive rebound position, even though Landell's pretty good at that. But like they need to open up the driving lanes for the drivers, and it makes the offense run a little smoother. So it was clunky, but like the game was immaterial to what the Hawks did during the deadline.
Yeah, like it made life harder for Dyson Daniels and CJ
Yeah,
McCollum. Like they just couldn't get to the spots that they really wanted to. Um, yeah, I don't know. There was some stuff in that game that just had me going crazy. The end of the third quarter lineup with Asa at center, which I feel like we've talked about ad nauseum,
hmm
but then you're going to do that with Corey Kispert and CJ McCollum. And again, this is the end of the third quarter. I think we'd firmly established by the end of the third quarter that CJ McCollum was not having a successful night guarding anybody from Utah. And that's what they rolled with. And Utah scored on 11 straight possessions to end the third quarter. I mean, when that lineup came out, I'm like, yeah, I don't expect a lot of stops here. But like, what's the definition of insanity? Like, what are we doing? What is that?
I don't. Yeah, we talked about this. I don't get it. Like those are the type of lineups. Like just throw Shea out there to get some type of defense, somewhere for somebody. Because he just played guys who had no interest in defending except for Nikhil. Nikhil was great all night.
Right.
But like, he just throws these lineups in there that have no shot to get a stop. Jalen was not interested in defending either all game. I'm like, oh, can we
And he was in that group.
can we play the guys who play hard, please? No. All right. Well, it's tough to get again. I'm pretty sure Quinn didn't want to play that lineup at the same time, but I just feel like you know I don't know, throw Shea out there, man. Like, especially if you're not going to close with him, what's the harm? Get
They
get
played
him.
him for, I think, a minute and a half in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's
And
just
this
it
is what
doesn't
they
make
did for the
sense.
third quarter.
And they did the same thing in the first half when they played Mo and Asa together, and it's just like, all right, like, have they even played with each other? All year, and like they play the same position on offense. The offense is wonky, and then you got a bunch of new guys at the same time. It's just like this is just it's bad. Like the thing I took away is just a bad basketball game to watch, and I just think everybody was a little unprepared for all the trades that the Hawks made.
And speaking of throwing Risa Shea out there, they had a possession with 13 seconds left in the game, I think it was, out of a timeout. Need to get a stop up three. And they put Corey Kispert out there, which,
Hmm?
if you want to defend that in any way, shape, or form, you could say, Quinn, if Utah should somehow tie it and you want to roll with no time out there and just come back and try to score, you might be able to defend it that way. But what Corey Kispert did was he like his person was like doing the handoff and he's sinking into the paint to stop the drive. He got all the way to the free throw line up three.
Yeah,
He shouldn't be playing in that situation. And if he's playing in that situation,
got to
How
switch.
do you miss that? How are you that situationally unaware, up 3 points at the end of the game?
I
And of
mean,
course, they hit the three.
yeah.
Like if I was playing with four random people in the gym and we say, hey, this is the end of the game, whatever the target score is, we can't give up a three here. And that's how you defend it, I would be pissed. Like just in the most disorganized setting possible. Like, what the hell was that?
I love
Okay.
the
Maybe we should move
no,
on to trades. I don't know. That
no,
that
no,
pissed me off.
no, Kevin. We should dig into that for a second. So I think that's right. I think that's right. So there was he sank, and and there was not a good handoff there. That so Isaiah Collier was getting whatever he wanted all night. So but I mean, it's for me the trade deadline day is a very weird day. So I don't know. A little grace, but not too much grace. So try to understand that. But they won, so hopefully it's okay.
Well, hopefully they can get that figured out. Which trade do
Yes.
you want to talk about first? I think maybe we should start with Jonathan Kuminga, since that's probably the biggest name. That's probably the deal that'll have the most lasting impact over the years here. How do you feel about the motivations here? What do you think, Tyler?
I mean, so initially I didn't like it at all, just because you know I I still believe that Porzingis could give the Hawks something these last couple of games, and he's just a significantly better basketball player. But the more I thought about it, the more I understood Ansi. Like because you can't just take the Kuminga trade in isolation. You got to look at the totality of all the moves the Hawks did, and you just come to the conclusions that ultimately Ansi, like granted he did get Jack Landale for free, but like ultimately Ansi was not trying to win as many games as possible, you know, to end the season. He's trying to build the best team he could possibly build within the next 3 or 4 years. And from that perspective, I fully under I fully understand, taking a flyer on a talented basketball player, Jonathan Kuminga. Um, I've said multiple times on this podcast, the Hawks need more talent, more physical, size and talent that Kuminga does provide, and they basically got him for free at the trade deadline. Uh, and so, like because Porzingis, like I think it was a couple things. I think they did. They were doing Porzingis a solid because there's a real possibility Porzingis is not going to be in the NBA next year just based on his health thing. I'm not saying I know anything. I'm just how the last 2 seasons have gone for him would suggest that I don't know if any NBA team's going to give him a contract that's going to want him to play here. I think he can make similar money in Europe and play less on a less travel schedule. Because I think the travel is what's getting him messed up. If I want my, I don't have a doctor's degree or anything, but I feel like that's really what's hurting him more than anything else. But like I just think overall the Hawks are like, yeah, let's take a flyer on Kuminga. Kuminga, for all his flaws, does do the one thing, and we saw this. I was screaming at Jalen Johnson to do it the entire game. Kuminga is very good at it. He does know how to get downhill and drive to the rim, generate contact, and play with physicality on the offensive side of the floor. Something nobody on this team does with regularity. The best driver currently on the team is Onyeka Okongwu statistically. Like they needed a physical downhill driver. Kuminga does provide that. There is a role for him. There are going to be minutes available for him. He's going to have plenty of opportunity to show what he can do in this league. So I'm excited to see what he does ultimately because it's just an experiment to see, okay, can he be a part of the future for this Hawks team?
How do you feel, Glenn?
Yeah, I agree. I think his ability to work in transition and his length and his speed is gonna work into what the Hawks want to do, work into what Quinn wants to do. Get out, run, put pressure on the rim, put pressure on the rim, attack an opposing team that's scattering on defense, and I think him and Jalen, like there's some powerful like mashup, opportunity there for what they can do together. And I just hope that Kuminga just kind of pushes into that and is open to that. And if Jalen and Kuminga on the floor together could just put pressure on the rim and transition, I think that's powerful.
Yeah, that's it, right? Like we've had enough instances over the past 1.5 seasons where if Jalen doesn't play, we end up in a lot of these uh, you know, we end up watching them at least. The Hawks end up in a game where the strategy becomes, hey, let's see if we can get up 55 threes tonight. Well, and why is that? Because they have no hope of challenging a shot blocker. They have no hope of getting to the rim, drawing free throws, and that sort of thing, unless, Jalen Johnson is the one doing it. Of course, Dyson can do some of that too, but it's, just so much of it is falling on Jalen Johnson right now. And so, they need some hope of a player who can drive and be physical and, make some finishes at the rim and just put pressure on a defense at the rim in a way different than Dyson because Dyson isn't going to get a lot of free throws. When Dyson does it, it's going to be a lot of floaters and stuff 4 feet in front of the rim. You don't get a lot of free throws out of that. So you need somebody more like Jalen, but in a way, you're too reliant on Jalen. So this is like a flyer on trying to get a second chance at this, get another player on the roster who you might be able to plug in when things get dire, when Jalen gets a calf injury, things like that. Like you just need a little bit more redundancy in your roster to make that work. But players like that are hard to come by,
Yep.
right? I mean, you saw in the Miami game a couple of days ago, Miami doesn't have a player like that. They don't have an athlete that can put pressure on the rim, and that kind of changed what they could do against the Hawks. And the Hawks won that game kind of handily because there wasn't any pressure from Miami on the rim. So this kind of player becomes very, very important. And the Hawks are lucky enough to have one in Jalen. But, the reality is if you want to be a top team, if you want to be a contender, you can't lay it all on him like that.
Yeah,
Now,
totally agree.
there's
Totally
lots of
agree.
drawbacks too.
Yeah, totally agree. I want to let Tyler jump in here, but letting Jalen attack the middle of the floor and Kuminga run a lane, run a lane, run a lane. I can't wait to see what that looks like. So, but I want Tyler to weigh in here too.
No, I mean, because like Kuminga's an interesting guy. Like I've liked what whenever I watch him, like I like how he plays. Like he plays physical basketball. Now, I think his issues in Golden State was he held the ball too long, not the greatest passer. His defense actually rates pretty like he rates pretty well as a defender, but I think playing for a veteran team like that, any miscue is just like
Very nice.
blown
Yeah.
up. Yeah, it's just blown up to the nth degree.
Yeah.
The good thing of playing on this Hawks team with no real weak defender is going to be easier for him defensively to
Yeah.
showcase his value on that end of the floor.
Agreed. Agreed.
Uh, I do think if again if Ricochet continues his rebounding, which I think might be real, I think him and Kuminga and Ricochet could provide a good offense defense pairing going forward because Kuminga is also not a good rebound. Like he's not a good rebound. Don't expect any like double doubles from him, anything like that. He is at like the best comparison I've heard and I've seen from him is like he's the modern day Corey Maggette, a guy who's going to attack downhill all the time, get to the free throw line fairly consistently. Something again, like Kevin and Glenn, have, both of you guys have said today, like that's not something the Hawks have had, and like the only thing it costs the Hawks in future salary is $3 million of Buddy Hield's money. So like it's just a good. I think it's just a good value play overall. And I'm excited to see how I because I again like I said I initially didn't like it, but once you recognize again the Hawks trading Luke Kennard for worst basketball player, Then you remember the Hawks traded Vite Krejci for somebody who's not going to help them this season. They did that to get picks. Like, the Hawks are in the business of uh, getting more assets, retaining their trade exceptions. They're not in the business of we're trying to win every game possible at the end of the season. Now they're not tanking, but there's a I just think the Hawks are. I think honestly, it's just being a realist on the state of the season. Like it didn't go the way they thought it would. I think they knew pretty early, even before the Porzingis stuff showed up. When, like, honest, once they acknowledged that Trae Young just wasn't going to be a part of this team's future, they needed to pivot because they didn't. Quinn's been pretty open recently about how the Hawks don't have an All NBA caliber player on the team, and that's the truth. And so until they get that player, or somebody develops into becoming that player, they've got to work the margins as best they can to get as much talent as possible and get as much opportunities at that talent as possible.
Agreed.
I think the swing skill is just going to be, can they teach him to play within the offense? Like, can he pass? Is he going to be a dead end, or is he going to be part of a continuum in the offense? And for someone like Quinn, if he's a dead end, I think that's going to make him a little bit crazy. Like, I think that's what he wants almost more than anything out of his team, is to have like this offensive flow. Like, you watch these games and it's like, what is Quinn prioritize? And it's like offense, spacing, movement. And, he's going to get a lot of that, but any time there are, the record scratch, well, he missed a play, he missed this play, there was somebody that he should have had the ball going to here. Like, I think that's going to be the thing that sort of makes or breaks this experiment.
But I think it's important for this organization to be a little bit realistic about what Kuminga is and isn't as a basketball player.
Yeah, no.
And I do think it would
Absolutely.
help. It would help to put him in lineups that need scoring, that just need somebody to go score the ball. Because it helps that this Hawks team, unlike the Warriors, the Hawks team desperately needs. They don't need Kuminga to unlock some new skill as a passer. They need him to do what he does best. So put him in situations where that's all you're asking him to do, where the offense is kind of built around him, similar to how the offense was built around Porzingis when he played.
Yes.
So I don't know if Jalen and Kuminga will play all that much together just because of that. Because like Jalen requires a bit more fluidity, to maximize. But if Kuminga can show that he's willing to be a passer and a cutter, like, yeah, he'll play the most minutes out of anybody outside of the Dyson, Nikhil, Jalen in a Kongu combination. Like, honestly, like there's an open spot. As much as I love Ricochet, like there's 100% open spot for somebody to take that role away from CJ McCollum. Because like I think we saw, for as good as CJ McCollum's been this year, the defense is a massive liability. And so like they probably would prefer to have somebody who's has a bit more size and can help them more defensively while giving them a scoring punch, which is what they've been lacking.
Right. Yeah, I do think that they will at times go with Jalen, Kuminga, and Okongwu together, because Okongwu is the one that can be the connector to kind of keep that together. Like, I think like that's going to be universal. Like, I think if you see Jalen and Kuminga on together, almost universally it will be with Okongwu at center. I think that's something that they're going to prioritize if they do that.
I just think if it's also Dyson as well, we're in danger territory there. So I do think Quinn needs to be smart. Probably he's going to have to pick and choose spots and separate these guys where he can. But again, there's open minutes and touches for anybody to come take them. Like nothing's really established on this team outside of Jalen and Nikhil and CJ McCollum on offense. Like if we're being and Okongwu, like Okongwu's kind of the connector, but outside of those four guys offensively, everything else, everybody's just flowing through there. They're desperately in need of somebody to take some of the pressure really. Like we've said, take some of the pressure off of Jalen. Hopefully, again, we can get Jalen's minutes down a little bit, maybe we can get some more intensity on defense, more consistently on defense. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Like it's a good risk. Like I initially didn't think it was going to be a good risk because I was like, Kuminga, like man, I don't know, he thinks he's a star, all that good stuff. But like, I mean, the Hawks need talent, man, and like it's a good talent play, and I'm pretty sure he'd be open to the opportunity to showcase what he can do, not only to the Hawks but to the rest of the league. So I do think this is a good opportunity for both sides to really excel here.
Instead of maybe addressing the other players in trade directly, maybe I think maybe a better exercise here, and this is one that was suggested to me by somebody at the arena named Brad tonight. If you know anybody that goes by that,
Who? Who? What? Who? What?
yeah, I don't know. I think he said his name was Brad. The Hawks basically have like 13 players now who could make a claim to playing in an NBA rotation. I think Tyler brought up the very good point that these trades probably don't really make the Hawks better for this season. This is more an asset play and the second round picks that they picked up and such. How is Quinn going to manage if the team's relatively healthy now? Porzingis is gone and Folly Dante is gone. Like there aren't really any injured players around. If he's got 13 healthy bodies over the next few weeks, how does he make an NBA rotation of 9 or 10 out of it? What do you think,
Good
Glenn?
question. Good question.
No, don't give that Brad person that much credit.
Yeah,
Stop.
no, no, so for me, it's like, what is the goal, right? Play in, better than play in, right? So the East is soft after about five, maybe, I don't know, 1 through 5, I think. And so, but I think Quinn's mentality is play hard, rebound, uh, defense to offense, push, 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 And I think that's what he wants of his team all the time. All the time, And they have more, like with Kuminga, they have more length. And I mean, Koloko didn't play tonight at all. So that's interesting to me. That's interesting to me. So for me, I think it's a matter of effort, intensity, will, and trying to push above that 7 seed. And can they get there? I I think they can, if they just like really play hard all the time. But I think Hawks fans are just gonna be like, I want to see it. So that's my mentality is push, 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 play hard all the time, and buy into that. That's where my head is. I want to watch and just see the trajectory on that. So
Okay, Tyler, it's time for you to name names. I think I said 13, and if you include Koloko, maybe it's 14. I think sort of everybody but Jurisic and maybe Keaton Wallace, because he's already sort of been out of the rotation even before the new people got here. Like, how are you paring this roster down into a shapeable rotation?
I think I don't know. I don't think it's that hard. I think he's going to go with the guys he's gone with. So pretty much the starters plus now Jack Landale, C.J. McCollum, Jonathan Kuminga is the eighth. Not the eighth guy. I'm just naming that's eight, and then so 6, 7, 8, and then it might be Buddy. Oh, Kispert. It's either Kispert or Buddy, one or the other. So and he might play both and go with 10 and just for the funds, but like I don't think Gabe Vincent's going to be in the plans though. He's a good like Gabe Vincent's a good like if there's an injury to Dyson Daniels, now the Hawks at least have somebody that can actually play point guard. Uh, so that is a good thing. Like that is a good thing that they got him, but I don't expect Gabe to play. I think Mo and Asa both. We talked about it a couple pods ago about how without Trey, the tweener forward center that Mo and Asa are, considering what their strengths and weaknesses are on both ends. Like I just don't see them fitting in what the Hawks are trying to do um offensively in particular. And I think these trades, I do think with the inclusion of Jack Landale, like the Hawks want to get better offensively. That was more the focus in defense. I think they feel fine with what they have defensively overall, but they want to get better offensively. They want to push into being one of the, instead of being a bottom third offense, they want to be in the top, 15 at least to end this season. So I do think these moves kind of point to that with two centers in a Congo and Jack and Landell who kind of do similar things on offense. So you get 48 minutes of that. Um, that just means like probably no Asa, just because you want Kuminga to get all the minutes that Jalen's not on the floor, plus some minutes with Jalen on the floor. That means you're probably gonna, I think the part of the reason of trading Kennard was that the Hawks weren't going to be comfortable with not playing Luke Kennard now that they have um, Kuminga, because Kuminga's just going to play. And they're like, all right, Kennard needs to go somewhere where he's going to play. He's on a 1 year deal. We got to do good by him. And he's in a great spot with the Lakers to really continue to showcase what he can do as a basketball player. And it again, it sucks that Hawks traded Kennard to me, because like I'd much rather have him on the team than Buddy Hield or even Kispert overall. But like, Kispert signed for longer. Buddy Hield might be on the team next year even, because it seeing just how well he plays at the end of the year. If he plays, I don't know if Buddy will play. But like I just think the Hawks are prioritizing next year, but they want to be, like Glenn said, they have the pieces, they have the talent to finish with a better record, get into the top six, based on the schedule. And a lot of these teams are going to be tanking like the Utah Jazz did, because this draft is pretty special. So like that's kind of what I think the Hawks going to do. But we'll see.
You,
Kevin,
you could
top
get me upset
six.
again.
No, Kevin, top six. How do you feel about their trajectory with the post trades, everything? How are you feeling about that?
Top six, top six players, top six teams. Wait, what?
Eastern Conference. Eastern
Top
Conference.
six seeding for playoffs.
Do I think the Hawks can crack the top six?
Yes.
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't think that the Hawks, like I said, I think these moves were longer term moves. I do think Kuminga's going to make a difference, just because I think that there's a need there for some of the things that he brings. But honestly, I think Tyler tweeted out best, like getting Jock Landale was just like an adult GM move. Like
Yes.
he's gonna make a real difference. Like
Yes.
they've had to play sort of these one-sided bigs, sort of power forward at center kind of bigs. Like obviously he's not gonna do all the things that he did tonight on a regular basis, but just having they just haven't had enough competent professionals at center for so long, and all the way through the Kristaps Porzingis injury tenure. Like it's been a glaring hole. So maybe they get a little bit better. Like I think Tyler brought up some really good points, like the one about Gabe Vincent as a backup point guard, even though he might not play a lot. I thought that was spot on. I sort of think that Kispert's going to get preference over Heald. I think the financials, part of it's play style, but part of it's just also the financial. I think you put that all told together, I think they're going to prioritize Kispert. Um, I think Asa might end up at College Park. God knows they need something. That I've just watched them give up 156 points last night. It was just an absolutely filthy basketball game, like just awful. And as bad as it is, I think they still have enough that like it could be a useful learning tool for him if he's not playing, because Landale is playing. I think Mo's not going to get used as much. I think we even saw a little bit of that tonight. Like they 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 were certainly times where they could have used Mo Gay tonight to try to do some stuff, and they didn't. So Yeah, I think, sort of Kispert's in the rotation. Maybe CJ's role gets tapered a little bit back. And then, Landale's going to be an important big for them. Like I think that's what it's going to look like going forward. And it would not shock me for Asa to get sort of more extensive time at College Park like he did a couple of weeks ago.
Tyler?
I mean, but I'm with you, Glenn. I think they can get top six. I mean, the Sixers, uh, they're not that good. Like the bottom
The
half.
Hornets might get there first.
Well, yeah, but the Hawks do have a good. Um, the Hornets are the better team right now, so like they might get there first, but we'll see if they keep this up. I do think they get Hawks get a Congu. They were playing, man, they were playing some good basketball with a Congu when he was healthy. So I do think I think they can get there. And again, their schedule is so chump,
That's right.
and like these teams are going to be actively trying to lose these games, like just selling. So like it's going to be a lot of the Hawks show up and execute. They're going to win, and they're going to win comfortably. To end the year, so that's where it's like, yeah, they have a chance to really move up in the rankings because a lot of these teams, like I don't think the NBA is ready for how many teams are actively trying to lose games for the rest of the year. Like I just don't think the NBA is ready for this.
It was
And
bad tonight. Uh, Oscar Schwebe at the table, and it's like he's a pro and he's a great rebounder and he made an impact, but like when you see just random dudes showing up at like with 10 minutes left in a basketball game that he hasn't played in, like, and he's,
I mean,
clearly been an end of the bench player all year long. It's like that's so blatant.
It's a product illusion. I'm gonna
Sure,
lean
sure,
into
yeah,
your space, Kevin.
yeah.
It's product illusion for sure.
I mean, the Chicago Bulls just said we're done with this season. Like, they have no bigs. They have nothing. They have a bunch of guards, and they're like, yeah, we're done. It's like, yeah, they're going to try to lose every game from now to the end of the year. But like Giannis might not play at all for the rest of the season, so it's going to get pretty nasty. So like I do think NBA fans are going to really hate the end of this year more than ever.
Product issue for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for joining me late, and good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.